Minute 111. Extra time. Cape Verde, a nation of 500,000 people playing in their first ever World Cup, are seconds from eliminating the defending champions. Then, a deflection. A header off Dini Borges's own body. Argentina survive. That single ricochet is the only reason this video isn't titled, How the Smallest Nation in World Cup History Beat Messi. And that's the point. This tournament hasn't been full of upsets because of luck. It's been full of upsets because the sport itself has changed underneath us. So let's break down why. Not with vibes, with the actual tactical and physical reasons this World Cup broke the script. 48 teams. That was supposed to water things down. More minnows, more mismatches, more group stage blowouts before the real tournament began. It did the opposite. More third-place qualifiers means more paths through. A team can lose a game and still survive, which means underdogs stop playing for a draw and start playing to actually win matches, because the safety net changes the incentive. Cape Verde didn't need to beat Spain. They just needed to not collapse. So they parked the bus, took the point, and saved their ambition for a game they could actually win. That's not romance. That's game theory. The format rewarded patience, and patience is exactly what smaller nations are good at. Here's the stat that actually explains this tournament. Most of these minnows aren't part-timers anymore. Half of Cape Verde's squad plays in Europe's top leagues, some lining up every week against the exact players they're now frightening on the biggest stage. That changes everything psychologically. 20 years ago, a debutant nation walked out overawed. Now they walk out having already guarded a Champions League striker on a Tuesday night in Portugal or France. The fear is gone. Australia beating Turkey wasn't a shock result from a rugby and cricket country anymore. It was a team that simply outworked a more talented one, because outworking talented teams is something their players do for a living, every season, for their clubs. Globalization didn't just move players around, it moved knowledge around. And knowledge is the one advantage big nations used to have that they can no longer buy back. For a decade, elite pressing was the great equalizer for favorites. It let a superior team suffocate a weaker one before they could even build an attack. But pressing is expensive. It costs fitness, spacing, and discipline. And this tournament exposed something coaches have quietly feared for years. When a heavily pressing team gets tired, or gets bypassed just once, they don't have a fallback structure. Germany dominated possession against Paraguay. 719 passes to Paraguay's 161, and still went out on penalties. Territory isn't control, it's just territory. Underdogs have learned to let the press come, absorb it in a mid-block, and strike the moment it overextends. It's the tactical version of judo, using a bigger opponent's own aggression as the weapon against them. Now add the environment. North American summer heat, long-haul travel between host cities, condensed group schedules. These hit favorites disproportionately because favorites are usually the teams built around intensity. High press, high line, constant sprinting. That's a system that thrives in mild conditions and breaks down in punishing ones. Meanwhile, a compact, disciplined underdog conserving energy in a low block is far less affected by 30-plus degree heat because they were never planning to run themselves into the ground in the first place. The conditions didn't just add randomness, they specifically penalized the tactical identity of the favorites. And fitness isn't just about heat, it's about age. Look at Brazil, round of 16. Erling Haaland scored twice, and Norway did something almost nobody predicted. They knocked out a 5-time champion, sending Brazil home at their earliest stage since 1990. Neymar came off the bench, scored a late consolation penalty to become just the second Brazilian man ever to score in 4 different World Cups, and then broke down in tears, telling reporters his time with the national team was finished. A calf injury had limited him to 2 appearances all tournament. That's not a tragic coincidence. That's the theme of this whole video in one moment. a team built around an aging, injury-prone talisman ran into a younger, fitter side peaking at exactly the right time. Put it together, and you get a sport where hierarchy is flattening. Not because talent is equal, it isn't, but because the conditions for exploiting talent aren't guaranteed anymore. Better players still win most days, but most days isn't every day, and a World Cup is only 7 games. 7 games is a small enough sample that one tired press, one wasted set piece, one moment of composure from a debutant nation is enough to flip the outcome. This is what modern football has become. Less about who has the best 11, and more about who can hold their structure together the longest under conditions designed to break it. That deflection off Dani Borges could have gone a different way. If it does, we're not talking about Argentina's path to the final. We're talking about the biggest shock in World Cup history. And a few days later, Brazil, the most decorated team in the sport, went home in the round of 16, with their greatest modern star saying goodbye to the national team in tears. The gap didn't close because the small teams got lucky, or because the giants got unlucky. It closed because the game changed, and only some teams and some players changed with it. If you want more videos like these, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.